the 25, breaks a couple of tackles, and look at him go! He could go all the way! Touchdown!
Winning is not sometimes, it's an always. Winning is a habit.
What's up, sports fans? Welcome back to another great episode of Gut Check Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Williams. With me, as always, good friend and co-host, Seth Floyd Hansen. We are back post-NFL draft, ready to talk some recap. How you feeling today, man?
Every day is a great day because we did not take Mac Jones. So every day I wake up like a fresh breath of air. But no, I'm good. I'm good. The draft was exciting. It was exhausting, and I think part of it was the lead up to the draft. It was really just felt like there were so many controversial things leading up to the draft. I know we're gonna touch on the Aaron Rodgers stuff probably another time. We'll save it, but like it just felt like a roller coaster. But my draft night certainly went better because early on the 49ers made a good decision. At least I think it was. So I'm good. I'm feeling pretty hopeful.
Yeah, and I think you had like the best case scenario as a fan, right? You have a good team, but you've just had some bad luck, so you're drafting early. So you can have that hype around like the number 3 overall pick, where really that was the start of the draft. Everyone felt comfortable what was going to happen 1 and 2. So you were kicking off the draft, but also you're not just this down, depressed fan who's never won anything and it's like terrible, like Jacksonville or New York. Yeah. So you're kind of playing with house money. So I think that's got to be exciting for a Niners fan.
Dude, it totally is because I'm not claiming like we're Super Bowl favorites and we shouldn't be, but like you're crazy if the whole team stays healthy if you don't think that they're gonna at least compete for a playoff spot. Whereas like you said, like if you're a Jags fan, like you could be hyped for your new quarterback, but man, your expectations have got to be, man, if we win 5 or 6 games this year, maybe 7 because we have an extra game, like you would. You'd be really excited. So we're definitely in a great spot. And that's like how I've been thinking about it this past week or so. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So just jumping right into that, Niners trade up from 12 to 3, give up a ton of picks. It's a big move for the 49ers, who essentially already had their franchise quarterback, but the move is saying they need a new quarterback. That's what everyone's thinking. Mm-hmm. I got to get your thoughts, right? Was it all a smoke screen about Mac Jones, or were people just completely wrong? Or I think I know how you feel about this. Like Mike Lombardi said, did they feel the pressure from the fans and the backlash over Mac Jones and completely change their mind and pivot to Trey Lance there?
Well, I would say it's not a smokescreen because they didn't put out any information. You know what I mean? Like all the reports on Mac Jones were basically, this is predictable. This is the guy Kyle Shanahan has always had. This is the guy they want. And everyone just ran with it. To me, that's not a smokescreen. They just didn't do anything to deter people from it. Now, he did say, Kyle Shanahan did make it sound like that it was going to kind of be when they got through the evaluation of everybody, it kind of did come down between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, but not really like he had loved Trey Lance from the beginning, but it made it sound like Mac Jones was his second guy. So I mean, take it for what it's worth. Do I believe that they caved to fan pressure? No, I don't, because I just believe that he really loved Trey Lance from the beginning, which is a lot more, which is pretty believable. I don't know. I mean, I don't need to go into, but like you look at Mac Jones, just his physical stature, what he's physically capable of versus a Trey Lance, like, holy crap, dude, it's not, it's not, and they're not stupid. They know who's going to be around at 12. They know what the evaluation is. So to me, their actions just spoke. They were high on one of these guys that was supposed to go that early. And Lombardi's just like mad that he got it wrong. Like, I don't know. And his business is just off clicks, right? Like if he can get people to pay attention to what he's saying. So I don't know whether he really believes that or not, but I don't believe that. So
Yeah. I can't imagine they would cave to that either. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have been doing it for a while. I mean, Shanahan's been around the coaching game a little bit longer than Lynch has been a GM, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, why would they cave to pressure? Like, look, you've already said Shanahan is a pretty cocky and arrogant guy. He thinks he
Yep.
knows what he's doing, and
Mm-hmm.
he does know what he's doing. So I don't think he's going to listen to a bunch of bozos like us be like, don't take Mac Jones no matter what.
Yeah.
We're still going to disagree, but if you want him, you take him. I think ultimately, like you said, it came down to him just looking around the league and saying a statuesque, like, sit in the pocket passer, one, doesn't even fit my system anymore completely, and two, it's just not the way the NFL's going. So yeah, you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a unicorn. That's an exception. You have to go towards the trend of what's going to be successful.
Well, and the Niners were like, it was pretty open. They were in on the Deshaun Watson stuff. Like, why
True.
would they? Why are they all in? So, but they wouldn't even give, like, they weren't in on Matt Stafford. If you wanna be, they were in on Matt Stafford from. They were inquiring, but the reports came out that they didn't even make an official offer. They definitely didn't even offer a first. But they would. I mean, I'm assuming they were gonna offer multiple firsts for Deshaun. So, I don't know, man. It just kind of from the beginning, it just felt like it was trending towards a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, and we had talked about Justin Fields, and that's what I thought the pick was going to be. But I mean, I'm happy with Trey Lance, and obviously I've looked at a lot more Trey Lance stuff since the draft, and I'm excited, man. I don't know what he's going to be. I'm just excited to see in this offense like what he does, because it's got to be the. I mean, is there a quarterback in the draft that went to a better situation? Like, you know what I mean? If you're thinking about it, like between scheme and just the roster around him, like, I feel like the floor is pretty high for him just because of the situation he's in.
Yeah, I mean, truly, he did go into the best situation. That's why it's always going to be tough to evaluate these 5 first-round quarterbacks that came out, right? Because Trey Lance going to Shanahan and his system and all the weapons with Kittle and Ayuk and Samuel in that running game, especially. But the person he's going to be compared to most is the other guy we were talking about at number 3 with Justin Fields, who I would say is not going to a terrible situation. Matt
Not
Nagy
at all.
Obviously gets a lot of bad rep, and he should, and mostly that front office should, because they traded all the way up for 2 for Mitchell Trubisky, which you guys can go back on the tape about how I felt on Mitchell Trubisky coming out, right? But with Justin Fields, like, I think that's a good situation there. David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, Allen Robinson, who can catch anything and everything. So he's going to be set up just for as much success, if not more. The only thing with Fields, Andy Dalton's there, but Fields is probably going to be expected to come in and be your day 1 starter. Where Lance, even if they picked him number 3, you still have Jimmy Garoppolo there. If Garoppolo's healthy, there's not necessarily as much pressure for Lance to come in right away and start.
No, I agree. I mean, if you're talking about teams that I don't know about like winning and losing the drafts, because we never really know, but like a team you're excited for, a team that did it well were the Bears for sure. The fact that that Justin Fields he didn't land in their laps, like they were at 20, but I imagine most of them did not think they were going to have a chance at any quarterback outside of Mac Jones. I bet that's what they thought that was going to be their only choice. So for Justin Fields, who for a while was supposed to be the number 2 pick, to fall that far to him, like, if you're a Chicago fan, you're out of this world excited, because you thought Andy Dalton was going to be your quarterback, and even if he starts, like, it doesn't matter. The future is better now, because if not, it was Andy Dalton, and then what do we do next year? So kudos, hats off to the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears definitely did what they had to save their jobs with Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. So the ball's in their court. Like, they've done everything right. Now we're really going to see, are they good coaches? Are they are they worthy of leading a franchise? Because they have the weapons. And obviously Bears fans are pumped because they do have a good quarterback, and one that's really doesn't have that many question marks. Not like Trubisky did, and like Rex Grossman, and going down the line all the way down to Jim.
Yeah.
So I do want to just jump back to the 49ers, though. We talked a lot about Trey Lance, feeling pumped about that. They had several more picks. How do you feel
Yeah.
about some of the rest of them?
So I love what they, I mean, I loved it. I loved a lot of it. I mean, it was a wait and see, but there's a lot of
Shocking.
good. Yeah, shocking, right? Their second round pick, Aaron Banks is a guard out of Notre Dame, an absolutely massive human being. Um, and just a mauler. Like he's not going to be. Is he ever going to be a top 5 guard in the league? Probably not. But he's probably going to be a top 20, top 15 guard in the league, and like you're just going to be able to count on him, especially in pass protection. I know we're a run team, but they said that they think he's going to be athletic enough to be in the run game too. But especially in the pass game, which our run blocking last year as a team was elite. Our pass blocking was subpar. And so they're just gonna beef up the O line a little more, and then Trey Sermon in the third round. Now this one was tough, and if I'm being honest, at first I didn't like the pick because I'm so anti spending capital on running backs if you can avoid it. Not because he's not a great pick, and is he worthy of a third rounder? Yes, like talent wise, yes. I just was hesitant because of. We have Raheem Mostert, we have Jeff Wilson, both are undrafted free agents. But when you look at it, Mostert and Jeff Wilson are both in contract years. If they blow it up and want to be re-signed, like there's going to be a market for them, at least for Mostert. I don't know what'll happen with Jeff Wilson, but do I want to give I probably wouldn't give Jeff Wilson the ball 20 times a game. I think he's better in a second role. So having Trey Sermon now, you get him for at least 4 years. You control him for 4 years. Like I think it's a good pick because of that. Again, like there's probably other running backs like Gainwell from Memphis didn't go to like the 5th round. Like that would have been a great pickup too. And you spent a 5th rounder instead of a 3rd rounder. But at the end of the day, like Trey Sermon is a straight up dude. He's just a freaking man with the ball in his hands. So I'm not gonna be disappointed. So I'm excited about that. And then they made a couple defensive back picks. Actually, Matt, you want to know what my favorite pick was? I haven't even talked about it yet.
Let me see. I bet it was. Actually, I don't know. You already talked guards, but I figured you would have. You love when they pick the linemen, so I would have gone Jalen Moore out of Western Michigan was your favorite.
That one, love it. Because he's a ginormous human being. Love it. But that's my favorite pick, I think, is Hufanga, the safety from USC, who in 2020 was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. And you just watch this dude play, and he's a little undersized. I mean, he's 6 foot, but he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's tough. He's always around the football. Like Scott McLuhan, I don't remember him. He was the GM for the Washington football team, and he's not there anymore. Yeah. But he said he came out and he said I couldn't believe that he fell to the was he the 5th round or 6th round? I can't remember. He was a 5th round. He said he had a third round grade on him, and the interview that whoever interviewed him right after he got picked, he said his number 1 goal this year is he's gonna make the Pro Bowl as a special teams player. So like you just love that kind of like hard nose and his play like reflects that. So anyway, I just think that I think that that's going to be a good pick because on our roster right now we're thin at DBs at least past this year. We have a bunch of guys on 1-year deals, and so I'm pretty excited about that. So anyway, as a whole, I thought it was a good draft. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean the 49ers. They know what they're doing. They've proven that with some good hits. Touching on your point about Trey Sermon, like he tore it up in the college football playoffs and even in the Big Ten championship. He could not be stopped. So I get that. I definitely get and understand where you're coming from. We're not wanting to spend a lot of capital on running backs. However, I think just trying to bank on hitting 7th round undrafted free agents, like it doesn't happen all the time.
At some point,
So at some point you're going to have to spend some capital. Now, I wouldn't have picked Najee Harris like that early, maybe if you have some other needs, or we could talk about Jaguars trading up for Travis Etienne as well.
We're going to talk about that.
But getting him in the 1st round, I'm not completely sold on either. But yeah, at some point, you got to get some talent there at running back. So I think it makes sense, and that guy's absolutely a horse. Like you want to talk about some big people that got drafted by the 49ers. I think they went big across the board from quarterback to running back, man.
Sure. Yeah, and the Trey Sermon thing, like it's way more forgivable just because the roster that the 49ers have when healthy is pretty good across the board.
Yeah.
There wasn't any major glaring holes. If it had been a rebuilding team, like it would have been a fireable offense to me, just because you know what I mean. But because they feel pretty good about their roster, they're thinking long term now. So
yeah, which really is why I'm not so high on the Harris pick or the Travis Etienne pick early for both those teams. Yeah, the Steelers were pretty good last year, but they had a lot of holes on defensive and offensive line, as well as linebacker that they could have addressed there. The Jaguars, like, where do you even start? Just because you have a quarterback doesn't mean all your problems are solved. So there's so many other things you could have just gotten there. So really, like, a running back, I think what you're saying is just like a luxury pick. So if you have the other pieces, you can get them at 3, you can get them at 2, whatever. But they're reliant on a lot of other pieces. Whereas like an O lineman, plug them in, they make a difference. A good quarterback, even though you want to build around them, a good quarterback, once you have them, they're gonna kind of overlook and make up for some of those holes.
So I kind of understand the Steelers, because the Steelers were like 11-0 last year. So we can talk about the holes that they had, but they were 11-0 to start, and then the wheels kind of fell off. So while I don't know that I would have done that, I'm sure I wouldn't have. I at least can like justify it, because James Conner was not good last year, and the line was bad. But James Conner is average at best, and Najee is going to be a game changer because he can catch the ball too, and all of that. That being said, I still would have gone offense or defensive line. But holy crap, Jacksonville Jaguars! I feel like everything I need to know about Urban Meyer's tenure in Jacksonville, which I am convinced is going to be very short, was made in that pick. Like, you went 1-15. You lost 15 games in a row, and you are going to use your second first-round pick on a freaking running back after you had a 1,000-yard rusher last year. On your 1-15 team, you had a guy who actually did play really well and was a 1,000-yard rusher, and you're going to draft him. And then you have the audacity to say he's a third down back. You drafted him at 25 to make him a third down back. Like, what is Urban Meyer doing? Please help me, Matt.
It reminds me of the Ted Ginn Jr. pick at number 10 overall, where I think that was Miami. It was either Miami, New Orleans, who picked him up, and they're like, he's going to be a great special teams guy and a punt returner. And you go, oh my gosh, a punt returner, a guy who's maybe going to get like 3 to 4 opportunities if you have a great defense to make a game-changing play. Like, even if that's Devin Hester right there, and you know that that's Devin Hester, you don't pick Devin Hester 10th overall. Like, I don't know what Urban's saying, that Etienne's only going to be a third down back. They had a great running back in Robinson. Hopefully he can repeat that, but Etienne is an every down back. So I don't know why he even said that, because then it just puts more red flags on the whole decision and gets people like you even more fired up. But I'm with you, man. Like, they had other holes. You need offensive line, you need defensive line, you need linebackers, right? You need cornerbacks, DBs. Like, the list can go on. So if really Etienne was right there and he was like the best player left on your board at that number, you probably need to look at your scouting department and say, why is he the best player on the board right now? Because he should be a little farther back. And if Urban Meyer is the one who's overriding everybody and making that decision, you've given Urban too much power already. And he's just trying to he's playing college. I mean, the other thing, right? They made some pretty good picks down the line. Like, they were okay. They weren't reaches. They filled some needs. But you talk about, if you look into it, Urban Meyer had like recruited all of those players to Ohio State at one point. So he has that connection, So is he biased? Is he just trying to bring back the boys? That could backfire on him. But then again, you bring in Urban Meyer because of his success in college, where he won at Florida and he won at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can see talent and he can develop that talent at college, you're hoping he can take those same guys that he would have taken in college and can make them great pros.
I was trying to explain this to you. So if you couldn't guess about me, I spend half my day arguing with 13 and 14-year-olds about the NFL and
Good.
football in
Good.
general, because that's who I
Yeah.
associate with every day. And
That
I'm
would be a
explain
lot weirder for you to say if we didn't know you're a teacher.
if I was
Like
a
you're
middle
just
school
walking around
teacher,
the streets.
yelling at the youths of America about
On
the
the chain link
NFL.
fence.
Yeah, exactly.
They got ETN. What?
So I think that football and scouting, and I think a lot of things about football and building the team and being successful, there are some complicated things about it, but we don't need to make it more complicated than it needs to be. And one of the simplest things to me is the worse your record is, then the following draft, you should be drafting just the biggest, fattest, strongest guys on the board. Just draft the fattest guy, the biggest human being on the board. It's not that difficult. Make like a lot of your job, Urban Meyer, is going to be hard. Make your life easier. Oh, we only won one game. Okay, who's the next biggest guy? Offense, defensive line, doesn't matter. Is he big? Is he strong? Do we have a first round, second round grade on him? Great. Let's take that guy because clearly I'm 1 in 15 because I cannot control the line of scrimmage. I don't even know anything. I don't know their stats. I'm just telling you there's a pretty dang good chance they could not control the line of scrimmage at 1 in 15. And so like it's not that hard. Like there are things about it that's hard, but that is not hard. I would have gone into that draft and I would say, okay, Trevor Lawrence is number 1, obviously. And then if I'm going to try and trade up for Slaughter was gone pretty quick, I would have been looking into Vera Tucker. I would have been looking into Darisaw. Whatever. Give me one of those dudes because I promise you they're better than at least one of the 5 guys on my offensive line.
Yeah, so what I would say with the ETN pick, they were still able to get Walker Little later in the second or third round, I believe it was, who was a high-rated tackle and kind of the next tackle that should have come off the board. He was right up there with Darisaw. I mean, it was basically Sewell and Slaughter, and then kind of the rest of the tackles, however you want to look at it. So they addressed some needs, but I get it. It's still kind of that luxury pick. There's no way Urban Meyer could tell me with a straight face that he's just not trying to recreate what they did at Clemson with Lawrence and Etienne. And I get it. There's an appeal there for sure, but the NFL is not college for a reason.
Gotcha.
There's a reason a lot of college coaches don't make it. It's different. So you really have to assess the talent accurately and get all the pieces in the right place. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
I have a quick question for you before we throw it to you about the Cowboys. I got a quick question.
Okay.
For you, okay. What is the more fireable offense? I'm moving on from Jacksonville. Don't worry. What's the more fireable offense? The Bengals passing on Penei Sewell to take Jamar Chase, or the Dolphins passing on Penei Sewell to take Jalen Waddle? And back-to-back picks. Which one is the more egregious pick?
So for me, the Dolphins. I'll say the Dolphins passing on them. Because while there is that connection with Tua and Waddle, it wasn't the same connection that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase had. The other thing is the Bengals did go out and they got tackles to play in their line, right? So Sewell was going to have to go to guard, or maybe he was going to go to right tackle. It wasn't like they needed that strong left tackle like desperately, right? The Dolphins actually moved away from some of their offensive linemen. They traded him away. I think I'm blanking on the name now, but he was a guard. They traded him back to Washington football.
Yeah. I can't remember his name either, but yeah.
So they had some gaps there to fill. And if you looked at the way, yes, Burrow was under a lot of pressure last year. They addressed some of that, but he still played well. Tua was under a lot of pressure, and he did not play well. So it seemed like that pressure affected Tua more than it affected Burrow. So I just watching how Tua played last year, I would have done more to protect him, make him as comfortable as possible. And so I think that goes with Penei Sewell. Especially also, I mean, Waddle coming off the ankle injury. I'm sure he's fine now. He's healthy. I get it. It's tempting though. They had gotten Will Fuller already. They still have Parker. I wouldn't have gone with them. I'm not firing either one of them. But if you gave me those two to fire, I'd fire the Dolphins.
So the thing, it's tough because the Dolphins won 10 games last year, so they're a team that their offensive line at least has some idea of what they're doing, probably. But without a doubt, like Jamar Chase to me is kind of like Kyle Pitts in this draft, where like no one, not only do they have an extremely high ceiling, they have an extremely high floor. It feels like they're just going to be good, and like Jamar Chase would have been the first receiver off the board in last year's draft, which had like 5 receivers go in the first round. So like I get that, plus the tie-in with Joe Burrow. Like I get that, and I think in heck, maybe after this year, but in 2 or 3 years, you're gonna look at Jamar Chase and be like, that he's a dude. He's like a top 3 wide receiver. Like that wouldn't surprise me. The Jalen Waddle pick just feels very Henry Ruggish kind of pick. Maybe they're also. Both came from Alabama. Both jumped the receiver everyone thought would go before them. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just was like, this guy was supposed to be Penei Sewell before the college season even started, was supposed to be slam dunk. Like, he is the best player on the board, but he's not a quarterback, so he probably won't go in the first 2 picks. And then all of a sudden he slips all the way to the Lions, and it just felt wrong. Good for the Lions. Good for the Lions.
Yeah, I know you loved the Lions picks because they went in their first 4 picks. I think it was 2 offensive linemen and 2 defensive linemen.
That's what I'm talking
with
about.
their first 4 picks. So they did the Motor City Dan Campbell method of just getting knee biters. And I could see why the Falcons got Kyle Pitts too. That one made sense there. They could have gotten Sewell, but that felt like they would really be sort of in a rebuild mode at that point or something. So I think getting Matt Ryan a little bit more weapons kind of makes sense there as well. So
yeah. So now I want to hear your take on the Cowboys, because they ended up with one of my favorite players that I was open about. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts in general, if it was a good draft or not.
Yeah, I think, again, it was a good draft. The Cowboys have done well at sticking to their board and taking the best player available. That's been their method. Maybe going back 10 years, at least 5 years, where they developed their board through their process and they picked the best guy available. And it's paid off for them, right? It turned the most heads when they picked CeeDee Lamb last year, when they already had 2 good wide receivers and they had other needs. But he was a number 6 overall. He fell to 17. He's coming in right away, and he's starting in, maybe not the best rookie wide receiver last year because of Justin Jefferson, but he was probably the second best. He was right up there with him. So, yeah, love the Micah Parsons pick. I thought he was top 10 talent. And as soon as J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain left, I would have liked those guys right away. But Sean Lee had just retired. Leighton Vander Esch has not stayed healthy, and Jalen Smith has unfortunately underperformed, or at least not been consistent in his performance. So I knew linebacker was a need coming into here, and if Parsons fell, I mean, it just fell right into your lap. I didn't see them trading with the Eagles to drop back to 12. That one was a little shocking. But, really, the draft kind of shook out the same way regardless of that trade. The Cowboys just got an extra pick from it. Because if we got Parsons at 10, it would have gone wide receiver again.
Yeah.
So if anything, they just kept the Giants from getting Devonta Smith.
Makes
sense there.
Yeah, and I've been, because I obviously live in like cowboy country, dude, and everyone's like, that was a fireable offense in itself to trade with the Eagles. But it was which team do you want? Like, one of these NFC East teams is getting Devontae Smith. You might as well pick up an extra 3rd rounder and still get your guy. I think it was pretty obvious that as soon as that pick was made, the Giants traded out. Like, I think it was pretty obvious what was happening there. And so I think it was a home run move by the Cowboys.
Yeah, it made sense. And then they just addressed all their needs later, right? So getting Kelvin Joseph in second round, who led the SEC in interceptions, or maybe was second most, but absolutely shut down Smith and picked off Jones last year when they played. He's a rangy guy. He really only fell because of some character issues. And so that's the one thing I would bring up with the Cowboys. They have their process for who they like and who they want to draft. But man, they do draft some people with some questionable character issues. Even talking about Parsons, which I didn't know about before he was drafted. The Joseph thing, it's just he violated team rules at LSU. I don't know what that is. I haven't been able to find, but he's good. Their tackle that they got in the fourth round, another had some character issues, had to transfer. But just going down the board, looking at what they got. Their first offensive pick wasn't until the fifth round. Getting a wide receiver again. But no, excuse me, it was the fourth round if you get their tackle, right? Tackle it in the fourth round and then a wide receiver at fifth. But they went all defense to address all their needs. The defensive tackle from UCLA that they got just tore up the Senior Bowl and absolutely put on a show. So gotta love that. Love that he's fitting in, and I'm excited for what Dan Quinn can do here. Last thing, steal of the draft for the Cowboys, and then maybe the entire draft, was Jabril Cox, linebacker out of LSU. Started at North Dakota State, transferred to LSU. I mean, anybody who can start at LSU like that, just that alone should put you in the top 3 of the rounds. He dropped to the 4th round, 10th overall. He's a great cover guy. He can play all 3 downs. So I'm excited. There's a lot of competition and depth in that linebacker room, but I'm excited to how it's going to shape up.
Yeah, I just was happy to see them go defense and embrace that. It's just, you got to invest. You just have to invest, and not all those guys are going to hit. Not all those guys are probably going to statistically make your defense better. But the more you draft, the more likely it is. And guess what? The bar isn't set very high, so the chance is a couple of those guys are going to come in and make immediate impacts. I was happy to see Jerry go that route. So that's good.
I mean, the question is still they haven't invested in safety, and why aren't they doing that? And then why haven't they valued a safety very high at all? They didn't even draft a safety this time. Maybe they move one of the cornerbacks to safety. But again, it's just another draft where they haven't addressed that one specific position, even though they did go heavy defense.
Yeah. Safety feels like, the only one, besides Morig, was there anybody else? Maybe that was someone they were targeting and then it just didn't happen for them. But I don't know.
I think Morig was still on the board in the second round when they got Joseph.
Oh, that's right. He went in the second round. Yeah. He ended up with the Raiders.
I definitely wouldn't have gotten any safety, at the 10 or 12 pick. If they would have traded all the way back to later in that first round, maybe you get Morig. But then again, I think Micah Parsons is going to be a bigger game changer than any safety.
Agreed.
Again, just thinking about what safeties are really making a big difference in a league compared to what a linebacker can do, what an elite linebacker can do, and I think linebacker has more value there.
Well, are there any other teams that you really liked their draft? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I have a bunch of teams I hated their drafts, and there weren't as many that I liked. So I'm curious if there's any that you did like.
Yeah, so, pulling them up again, I will address, right, just the New England Patriots sitting at 15 to get Mac Jones. I like that they didn't move anywhere. They just waited to see how the board unfolded and then got a quarterback. Is Mac Jones going to be a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro? I don't know yet, but certainly that's a great fit for him, and we've seen that prototype work. But then I also love the Christian Barmore pick after that, and Ronnie Perkins right after that. So 2 horses on defense who are going to start right away and be scary for that Belichick up front. And then staying in the AFC East, I did love the Buffalo Bills draft as well.
They took my guy.
They went defense right away. Gregory Rousseau and Carlos Macham Jr. First 2 picks, like those 2 guys are going to be your defensive ends right off the bat. And then a sneaky good pick in the 6th round at the end was Rashad Wild Goose, cornerback out of Wisconsin. Draft him for the name alone.
Yep.
But no, really, I actually randomly watched a bunch of Wisconsin tape when I was trying out for PFF. They like always gave me Wisconsin games to break down, and saw his name come up a lot. He was all over the field. So yeah, I like that pick late.
Nice. Can I give you my I have 2 more that I like have to get off my chest that just drove me insane. Okay. The first one, I know you'll agree with me. I'll tell you that one. Okay. The Las Vegas Raiders taking Leatherwood. Like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? Like, some people, I was again, like, after the draft, all I do is listen to podcasts all day because I just want to listen to see what guys think. And I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, could be someone else, but I thought it was Daniel Jeremiah talking about this pick and was like, look, he's not going to be bad, but he had him in like the 50s. He had him like ranked in the 50s. Yeah. Like, why? Yeah. What is there? Now the Raiders got saved because Morig fell to them in the 2nd round. So really, like, this draft should have been Morig in the 1st round and then Leatherwood in the 2nd, and no one would have been talking about it. But their evaluation on players is just every single draft they do something weird like this, and I don't understand it. I don't get it.
It's always with a Bama or a Clemson player, though. Like, they highly value those, and that's because Mayock went on record saying he watched, I think it was the first time Clemson and Alabama played each other in this recent string, and he had just been hired as the GM for the Raiders, and he's like, why would I draft from any other team? Like, I'm watching professional players right here, which is sort of true, but that's not a perfect model. Like, there are other guys out there, and you got to pick and choose the right ones. You can't just blindly pick, oh, who's the starting tackle for Alabama? I'll pick him right now.
Well, and it was, maybe there was like some excuse in the first time you did this, but you've done this a few times now, and it hasn't panned out for you. It hasn't worked. So what are you doing? Anyway, that one was really hard, and I don't think there's no way going into next offseason, if the Raiders do not make the playoffs. I guess I'll give them this: they have if they make the playoffs, then all is probably forgiven. Yeah. But if they don't make the playoffs, Mayock or Gruden are gone. One of them has to be gone, right?
I think Mayock goes before Gruden because it's easier to fire a GM than a head coach, especially one like Gruden. The thing that sort of upset me the most is, like, it was a reach on Leatherwood. It's okay because it was an offensive lineman. You know,
sure,
I do like when you value the trenches, right? But in their offseason, they gutted their offensive line. So then to gut it and then just immediately draft an offensive lineman who was a reach. It's not like you're getting rid of an old left tackle so you can get Penei Sewell in there and just lock it down for the next 15 years. Like, you had one of the best offensive lines and then moved pieces around. You have like one guy left, and then you reach for another one. That didn't make a lot of sense. And I don't even really like the Morig pick for them. Yeah, he fell to them a little bit more, but they just drafted Jonathan Abrams, who's been pretty good back there as safety. So that's not even really a need for them as well, when I would have tried to get probably some more wide receiver help, or again, defensive line. So
I just think, dude, if I'm gonna be real, I think I told you this. I think the stuff that is going on in Las Vegas, I think it's Gruden. I think it's Gruden has too much control. I think that Mayock worked the draft for all those years as an analyst. Like, he knows value. Like, he knows how this thing works. So I think it's Gruden. And Mayock may be gone first. One day, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, Mayock's going to write a book, and he's going to explain what's going on because he's going to try and save himself. Because the gutting the offensive line, the signing Kenyon Drake, like, was that a Mayock thing, signing Kenyon Drake for what they did? Like, it just has Gruden written all over it. Gruden is a guy who was in the booth, he was just breaking down game tape of NFL guys, like, not scouting. Like, I I think it's Gruden. I think it's him that's making these calls. And I think that one day you're going to read a book about it. There's going to be an article written about it. So
Yeah, I mean, it could be. And if you look at any of these teams that we don't like their draft or that haven't drafted well, it's because there's not a clear process between the scouting department, the player personnel department, and then the head coach. The head coach doesn't need to always be on the same page of what players are going to be drafted, but that just has to be a clear line. Some of the best teams to do it are clearly in sync. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, like right next to each other, making those decisions. And then I think on the other spectrum, it's the Cowboys hold a lot of that decision making on the player personnel side, which can work because they seem to have a sound process in doing so. Whereas the Raiders kind of going back and forth, who really is making the decisions, who has the control, and then do they have a clear process?
I have one more that I don't think is taking enough heat. I don't think it's taking enough heat. And the reason is because I'm more upset about the player they passed on than the player they got, because I think the player they got is going to be great. But the Denver Broncos not taking Justin Fields is a huge problem, because it is because you know who Drew Lock is. He is not changing. Drew Lock is Drew Lock, and he's not the guy. You know what Teddy Bridgewater is. Yeah. Like you've seen Teddy Bridgewater in 2 different systems now before you, and he's not the answer. And so you had a guy that could have been your franchise quarterback, and you passed on him for a corner who's going to be great, who's going to be really good.
Yeah.
But that to me is just the wrong call. When you don't have a quarterback, that's the wrong call. And some people want to say the same thing for the Panthers. The one thing I will say for the Panthers is there's a lot of people that don't think you've seen what Sam Darnold is. He was stuck with Adam Gase. At least they clearly, Sam Darnold's 23. They clearly think, and a lot of the league thinks, you don't know what you have in Sam Darnold yet. So at least I can forgive them for that. But, man, with the Broncos, like, they have no answer at quarterback. When they go into next offseason, they will be in the exact same place trying to figure out their quarterback situation, unless, and we'll talk about this in another episode, if the Aaron Rodgers things pans out, like, maybe. But, like, I don't – anyway. So I'm curious what your take is on that.
So it was definitely a shock, right? I saw J.C. Horn go number 8 to the Panthers. I thought Surtain should have been the first cornerback off the board, but either way, like, however you view those two guys. I didn't think the Panthers would get a quarterback, just like you. Like, you just got Darnold. Give him a chance. I think that could work. So the Broncos were definitely going to get a quarterback. They went cornerback as well, get Surtain. Now I'm like, who the heck are the Cowboys going to get, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here, because I'm off the Drew Lock bandwagon. I do want to go back to you saying Drew Lock was going to be a good quarterback, and the Broncos were going to be good. So.
Yeah, 100%. I said that. I said the Broncos were going to go like 11-5 because he came in and he looked good. I did. I totally will own that for sure. But he is not the dude, clearly. Like, he's not what I thought he was going to be.
He's not the guy. But what I will do is I will give the Broncos a slight benefit of the doubt that they're bringing in Teddy Bridgewater, who still, I think, has some potential. He was not terrible in Carolina. He was undefeated as a fill-in in New Orleans. And before that injury, I know I'm going back a few years, but he was Pro Bowl, like, outskirts of MVP discussion before he got hurt. That's why I know that's putting a lot on them, right? But then outside of that, they're building around him. They spent a lot of money on defense in the offseason. They got more defense in this draft. They got a stud in the line. This guy, Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater.
Legit. He's like my favorite player in the draft, yeah.
Everyone needs to look him up from Division III football, tore up the Senior Bowl, and he's just like the dude's dude, right? He's the best. Yeah. Javonte Williams, who they got early in the second round, but a lot of people had him as the best running back. Jerry Jeudy coming back, Cortland Sutton. There's a lot of weapons around there. So if they were a little higher, if they had a chance for like Wilson, Lawrence, Lance, even. I like Fields, right? But I like that they're giving them a chance with this quarterback, building around him, not just riding all in Drew Lock because you've seen enough with Drew Lock, but I think you have a capable and good quarterback who can win you some games in Teddy Bridgewater if you give him the right pieces, and that's what they're doing. So I just can't. I don't know, man. I can't completely blow it up. I was surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if they went Fields. But hey, I'll give him a year, man.
So what it comes back to is look at the league. Look at the teams that win every year, and they have stability at the quarterback position. And I don't know. I can't imagine a world in which Teddy Bridgewater is a guy like more than an average. Like let's say Teddy Bridgewater is a guy who's just as good as his team is around him, which he probably is. And that's kind of giving him the better like he might be a little bit of a liability too. Like let's be real, he's not winning you games. At best, he's not giving the game away.
Yeah.
So like is that your plan for the rest of your like when has that ever worked for any team? Like that doesn't work. The teams that win are the teams that have a dude who wins you games despite the mistakes his teammates might make. Like I get that. I'm just saying Justin Fields very well could be a guy like that, and he was in your lap. You didn't even have to trade up for him. Like if he was gone already, like then it is what it is. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like this dude fell in your lap, and your only alternative is Teddy Bridgewater. And you just let it go. Like great, man. Your guys' ceiling is a wild card berth at like seed number 6. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you're lucky, you might win 10 games in a 17-game season. But like you still have to figure out the quarterback position. Like next year, this discussion is not going away. Like it will be the same exact thing. And I just thought it was. I didn't think it was getting talked about enough. And I think because we like Patrick Surtain so much, like people are like, oh, he fell to you at 9. That's great. But like, you need a quarterback, dude. You need a quarterback. And you don't have one. You don't have anything. You don't have any hope. Your fans have no hope right now. I know because I'm on freaking Twitter all day. And I know instead of teaching, I give them a packet and I sit at my desk on Twitter. That's not true, by the way. If my boss is watching this, it's not true. I'm just saying, like I've seen like Broncos fans are pissed because they understand like this is a problem. Teddy Bridgewater can't be the future.
It's not being talked enough about because they have hope in Aaron Rodgers coming to the Denver Broncos, allegedly, right? Sure. So, I mean, we'll see. I get your point. Justin Fields falling to them at 9, and cornerback wasn't necessarily a need for them right there. So it seems like they took the best player available that wasn't Justin Fields, right? Which then if you think about it that way, you're like, did you go out of your way to not pick Justin Fields? Like, did you feel some pressure because J.C. Horn went right before you? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
It does feel like it feels like they had Surtain as like their number 1 corner and probably like the best defensive player on the board maybe, and they couldn't believe he was there at 9, and that's like what it feels like to me. They were like, we have to go defense. I don't know. And if they trade for Aaron Rodgers, then you were right and I was wrong, like or you know what I mean? But like holy crap. I'll never agree with this pick.
I will see what happens because the one thing you can credit them on is the mindset that you're gonna have to stop the offenses in the AFC West. The Chiefs number 1, the Chargers were 3rd or 4th, and then even the Raiders were like 7th last year in passing offense. So you're gonna have to slow down. So going defense makes sense. But if you look at all those teams, the Raiders don't have a superstar quarterback. But Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert absolutely are superstar quarterbacks, and they're the ones, who are up and up in that division, and that's who you have to compete with before you even think about a wild card or playoffs. So.
Yep. No, I agree, and like like it's a defensive guy. Like your defense is going to get stronger. That's great. I just I want to know what their plan is because I can't imagine they feel good about Teddy Bridgewater. Like the Teddy Bridgewater trade just felt like, hey, Drew Lock isn't the guy. We need somebody to maybe elevate us a little bit till we figure out this quarterback situation. Well, guess what? You could have figured it out right there. You could have figured it out, and you just did it, and you're going to be in the same spot next year.
So it's like the last thing I'll say, it's like they had the mindset, okay, we're going to need to address our quarterback within the next 2 years. Let's get Teddy Bridgewater, and then we'll address it next year. And then all of a sudden they had Justin Fields right there to pick, and they're like, wait, well, no, we were already looking at like Spencer Radler and like Desmond Ritter next year, that sort of thing. So, which I don't know if any of those guys are going to be just better than Justin Fields, but we'll certainly be talking about him.
Sure. And I think I bet you that's pretty accurate what you just said because I don't know, man. It seemed wild to me. But good for the Bears. Good for the Bears because that franchise is full of life now because they have a dude that they feel like gives them hope. So.
Yeah, and he is a dude. I mean, who knows what his ceiling's going to be, but like he's going to come out, he's going to compete, and he is going to make your team better right away. And I think that defense is going to be better just because they're going to want to play for that guy. I don't know how many people. Yeah. I mean, Mitch Trubisky, we rag on him, but he still had a winning record. So like you got to think Fields can do a little bit better than that.
Sure.
And have you guys competing in what's always been a pretty tough NFC North, regardless of the Aaron Rodgers situation.
So. Sure. Yeah, it's man. Good thing it's only 5 months away or whatever it is. Gosh, gotta sit around now. Really cool.
But it's only 6 days until the release of the NFL schedule. So that will probably be what we're talking about next episode. So we may we may mess around with our schedule a little bit, fans, so we could talk about that schedule release because that's literally all Seth wants to talk about. And now we have an extra game to talk about. So I will make him happy, and we will talk about that next episode. But hey, thanks for tuning in. We would love to hear what you guys thought. If we missed any teams to talk about, if you want to hear us break down any of the other picks, what we thought about it, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Yes, sir. As always, Gut Check Nation, we love you guys, and we will talk schedule next time, like Christmas morning.
Until next time. Out.